Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Freedompreneur Show. Man, this podcast today is special. I got an incredible guest, really somebody that's been speaking to me recently, just resonating. I tend to discover people years before they hit this bam, and I really do feel in my heart that I am talking to one of them right now that is on the cusp of just just creating so much impact in the world, so much good, and with such a powerful, timely message for men. We're going to talk masculinity, we're going to talk about success, and we're going to hopefully drop some seeds into the culture to make a difference for the children and the women and the rest of the world. Oh, I'm here with Gabriel Al-Romani, is a positive Islamic psychology coach, educational consultant, and media presenter. He was on Peace TV, Huda TV, Igra TV. After studying Islam for many years, he converted in 2003. He's a graduate of Mishka University, USA, where he completed his associate's degree and his bachelor's in Islamic studies. Prior to that, he graduated with a double major in biology and psychology, neuroscience, and cognition, and has also graduated from the Faculty of Education, the University of Windsor, Canada. A lot of my listeners are from Ottawa, are from Canada. He's actually in Windsor right now. He has a certification in the existence well-being counseling, University of KU, Belgium, as well as a certification specializing in children and family achievers, Positive Islamic Psychology Center, and Khalifa, sorry if I'm getting these names wrong, Education Foundation,
good,
Malaysia. He's currently completing a master's in Islamic education and counseling from the University of Malaysia. Welcome, Gabriel. Thank you for taking this. It's just, I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. Excited too. Thank you.
So let's get right to it. I don't want to waste any time here.
Bismillah.
And the state of Canada right now, where you are. I just had my brother, my blood brother, younger brother. He owns a company that rescues animals. He went to a school in Ottawa just last week. He said, while I was there, Luke, a little kid came on the PA and he said, let's all remember, to the whole school, he said, let's all remember to say they, to use people's pronouns properly. This is a kid saying this to all the school students. And I find this disturbing. And I want to know what you think. What are your thoughts around this movement of transgender? And just give the listeners your thoughts around this.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Well, it's a confusion. I mean, you have a little child advising a whole school, an education institution, as to what are they trying to say. That's the question. What is this they them? What is this pronouns? What are we actually dealing with? We're dealing with probably the greatest confusion that has hit humanity since the time began, since God created Adam and Eve. And that is that you're denying your basic DNA. Like, if all those kids in that school, okay, let's stay simple. 100 years from now, let's say 150 years from now, they're all going to be dead, right? Including you and I, is the reality, right? If they dig our bones out, okay, they're not going to be confused once they analyze our DNA. They, them, she, he, they, we, whatever. It's going to be male, female. Very simple. This is a male. It died of this, if they're going to do any kind of tests on them, they're going to say this was approximately the age, the gender for sure, and maybe cause of death or something like that. Very simple, right? Analysis will give that. So why the confusion? Why are we denying basic facts? We're teaching, and that's the worst thing about it, that it happens in school. The indoctrination is in schools. We're teaching kids that truth doesn't matter anymore, that reality is not important, that you can make up your own reality of what you are and who you are and claim to be whatever you want to be, and it doesn't stop at they, them, he, she, they, whatever, all these pronouns. It goes beyond that. People identify as cats and dogs, and as this, a 50-year-old identifying as a 6-year-old now, a black man identifying as a white man, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. So I would say it's a crisis. It's an existential identity crisis that is rooted in the fact that human beings have dissociated themselves from their main purpose in this life, which is to find God, to live in a way that is pleasing to their creator. And I think this is where it all started from. But yeah, it's quite disappointing, and I
But
fear for my children because
what's the danger in it? People are listening to this going, what's the big deal? Everyone just wants to be an individual. Just let them be. What's the danger?
well, it is a big deal because if you allow a 6-year-old child or 7-year-old child or 8 or 9 even to decide, what gender they are and to transition, it's not even just a label now. It's gone way beyond that. Okay, you can argue that labels, blah, blah, blah. People choose to be skaters, rappers, whatever. People take all kinds of identities. People change religions and so on, right? But now it's gone. It's going beyond just labels. It starts with one thing, and that's where the principle in Islam, for example, is that you don't take these little steps that lead to a big leap that's going to cause you to fall off the edge. You have people transitioning, hormone blockers, and lo and behold, after not so many years now, people are reversing now. People are realizing the damage, and there's a lot of activists right now who have made the mistakes of transitioning. It started with that confusion. It started with this gender pronouns, with identity issues, and sadly, because the responsibility that adults, including teachers and educators and law makers, they didn't take it seriously. Now we have huge problems, huge health problems. People are dying. People are living as, disabled. And now this is being brought to Congress. I mean, maybe in Canada, Canada is still a bit back, but America definitely is pushing now. Congress is pushing back, and some of the conservative states are definitely pushing back and questioning and reversing some of the laws, like in Florida, and I expect other states will follow. So definitely, I think the problem is that we're teaching our kids to change their bodies, to take poison, to ingest poison, and to hurt themselves and to lie to themselves. Because in the end, no matter how many surgeries and what you think and how you dress and what you label, in reality, you're never going to be change your biology and your DNA. Your DNA is clearly wired. There's a code. There's a specific code that's been there since the beginning, and that's you're not going to be able to change. So we're teaching basically our kids not to be honest with themselves. That's what we're teaching them, if you want to put it in a nutshell.
How does this affect family? Family is something important to you?
Definitely, it's important. I mean, families are falling apart because of this. I mean, you do find that amongst, for example, there's a case in Canada, British Columbia, where the mother was of one opinion of supporting the child in their transition. The father was another opinion, and the father was arrested, and he's having legal issues. Um, so it is affecting families, affecting the nuclear model of the family that's been around for so long. It's affecting uh, the bond between the family. It's affecting the ethics and morality. It's affecting like I mean, kids are now like parents cannot, you've raised this child, you've to a lack of better words, you've produced this child, you've fed them, you've raised them, you've paid for them, and now all of a sudden people tell you that you cannot interfere. You cannot tell them, hey, wait a second, you're 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. You don't know yet what you're doing. We're not allowing you to vote yet. How can you choose your gender if you cannot even vote? You cannot even tell. How can you tell what gender you are if you cannot tell if this person would be a good leader or that person would be a good leader? You know what I mean? Give them a driver's license for God's sake. You know what I mean? Like, what else do you want? Like, it's just really, really irrational and unethical on so many different levels.
I have to tell you another thing that just happened. My brother, same thing. I was just talking to him, and he was saying that he goes to the doctor's office, and the doctor's not letting him in anymore, so that they're only allowing one parent to go in to the office now. This is a new rule, and so his wife ends up being the one that goes in, and then she makes decisions with this doctor that she now comes out of that office and tells him, she made these decisions, and he disagrees. And there's like, what, this is supposed to be a thing where, so my natural reaction was like, man, storm the office and get in there, and who cares about the rules? Like, he goes, I'm going to get thrown out. So there's this coercion, this like confusion, this trying to create, it's maddening to me. It's just maddening. As a parent, I know you have a son, I have a daughter. If he comes to you and says, I think I'm a girl, how do you approach that?
Well, he's never going to do that because I raised him as a boy and I raised my girls. I have 3 girls as well, and I raised them as girls from the beginning. I think if parents do their job from the beginning, look, there might be confusions here and there. We all, growing up, we know teenage years, just looking at the neuroscience and the behavior, the cognitive development of a child, there's going to be confusion. The hormones are impacting, your brain and what you see around your environment. So the parents' responsibility is to redirect their children, right? Because they have gone through this, they have experienced, they have reached another level now. They're not in the same position in their developmental stages. They're obviously adults. And the law for the last, 2000 years have always, acknowledged that an adult has a different position than a child. So parents have to redirect them. I'll redirect my child. I would speak to them. I would explain to them. And no doubt, because I've done so much, work with them at the beginning in those very critical stages of development in their life, there's those formative stages. I think that it wouldn't be a big difference or a big challenge for me to readjust them and bring them back to reality, actually, not to the, I don't want to use the word the path or whatever, but to reality. This is reality, right? But however, the same thing cannot be said about teachers and policymakers who are trying to, as you said, shove it down your throat. And they do that by creating policies that make it unlawful for a parent to be there in the office with, the doctor and the mother and other stuff as well. Like, come on, if you, as you claim that this thing is something natural, it's a social construct, blah, 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 then why are you shoving it down people's throat? Let there be a proper academic debate, not putting red tape and restricting people and arresting them and whatnot if they're going to speak their mind. Because, the only thing that they're doing is they're showing that they're so afraid. They know that if you talk some sense into someone, you show them that they're not going to believe that. But if you block that person, if you stop them, you limit them, you threaten them, then of course you're going to have free, it's open season on these children. That's why they're trying to indoctrinate children, especially because they know people like you and I, or, younger adults, they're not going to change their sexuality or their identity now. But for children, yeah, that can be an issue of confusion.
What is the role of the father in general?
I think the father, as you know, as we believe, and not just believe, but firmly believe with no wavering. I believe the father is the leader of the family, as God says in the Quran that he's the Qawwam. Qawwam is a provider, a protector, a leader, a guider, and he has to act according to a set of rules, okay, that we believe are divinely revealed. And this is a huge responsibility. He is a Khalifa or vicegerent. He's a representative, actually, of God on earth, right? And his huge responsibility is to make sure that he guides the family in the right way. Now, that doesn't mean a father or a man is perfect. He's got flaws and mistakes, but at least he understands the blueprint or where he has to take his family. And even if he falls short or makes mistakes, he always knows that, okay, there's a path that has to be taken, right? And he tries to advise his son and his children, his family, his wife, that they have to follow that no matter what. So there's clarity. A father guides his family towards clarity, towards ethics and morality, towards honor, towards clarity, towards directions. It's a huge responsibility, and it's something
What
that
does that word honor mean to you?
honor, I believe based on our belief and our what we fully rightly believe, so without a doubt, honor is a set of rules that protect and show the value of a man, as God created them. God created us with a certain purity and a certain honor. Like, look, if you just look at human beings are amazing, right? Human beings were created with amazing capabilities, right? Physically, emotionally, spiritually. We have so much. And that's what God says in the Quran. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ? Do you not see? Look in وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, and in yourself. Look in yourself. The signs are there. Just looking at human beings, our complex mechanism, is in itself a miracle. I would say human beings are a miracle. And one of the greatest signs of God's existence, that humans are there, and that we exist, and that we operate in the way we do, and that we have our social interactions the way we do. So honor is maintaining that, is not corrupting that natural disposition that God has given us, plus the fine-tuning of that by the rules and regulations that he has given us to live by. And if we deviate from that, we dishonor ourselves, right? Family, love, compassion, strength. Strength is a big part of honor. Rules that you go by, keeping your word, right? Being honest. These are things that are part of honor, and we should not compromise on that, because once we lose our honor, we lose our humanity. And that's why, sadly, some people behave like animals today.
I'm looking at a samurai sword behind you, and thinking back of Ronin, and this word honor, and how much the warrior spirit, that warrior energy that we see in movies, how much it's repeated. Braveheart, all these films are about warriors. This is what really spoke to me when I came upon your videos. For those listening, Gabriel is into fighting sports too. He spars. This is what brought me to him, because I feel that these are the brothers that are grounded in reality. When you wrestle somebody, when you strike somebody, you as a man feel. You don't need to talk. You just know. There's something that becomes very clear between us, and there's a deeper connection that we can do with words, I feel. And when I was, listening to his videos, go check out his YouTube video, 6 Traits of a High Value Man. I want to talk about some of these. And if you are a man listening to this right now, I guarantee you're going to feel something. You're going to feel some resonance, because it speaks to the core of who we are. These new words I'm learning, like fitra, I'm very new to, but I'm learning what these
It's
things
great.
are. Um, yeah, so thanks for that. So now we move from father to leader. And what is leadership to you?
Well, leadership, again, I try to live my life as close as I can to Islam. I mean, I know that I'm not as close as I would like to be, but definitely, I try in the least case scenario that I try not to compromise, or at least I know where I'm supposed to be, even if I'm not there, right? So according to Islam, it's leadership has accountability, responsibility, and authority. These three kind of go together. So a lot of people don't understand that, these three things go together. So authority, yes, you're given authority as a leader. You have to be able to lead. People have to follow. But also, in order to lead, you have to be accountable and you have to be responsible. And I think every single man in this world, if they understand that they are designed and destined for some sort of leadership. There's different levels, of course. So all men should be leaders in their families. All men, every single one of them. I know sometimes women get upset with what I say, but women were not created for leadership roles. It's not in their DNA. Can some of them do certain things? Yeah, they can, of course. I can also take care of children if I want to, but am I going to be very good at it? Or I'm going to be as good as a woman? Maybe better than some women, but in the end, that we don't go based on exceptions. Okay, rules are not based on exceptions, right? So men were created for leadership positions. Women also have some form of responsibilities, and that's clear. And the Prophet Muhammad told us that. But all men are leaders, every single one of them. Some are leaders in their families, others are more than that. They, become leaders in their circle of trust, in their companies, in their jobs, in their missions, and so on. Some in their countries, obviously. But men have been wired for this. This is without a doubt. Some are better than others at it. Some have maybe dishonored themselves, yet they're still in leadership positions. Therefore, they're not so effective. That's a different story. That can be debated. But every single man has been wired for leadership as long as they know what rules to follow and the lines, the boundaries, and so on, and that they're responsible, and that at some point there will be an accountability. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, how long are we going to live? In the end, no matter what, you can escape the law, you can escape people, but you're not going to escape your creator. At the end of the day, there's going to be an accountability, and you're going to have to account for what you have done. So that keeps you grounded. That faith, knowing that there is an end, it can come anytime. It can come anytime. It doesn't, you never know. It can be a child, you can be an adult. Just before you, I had a client that, her son is stage 3 cancer, at 7 years old. You don't know how far you're gonna go in life. You don't know. You think I'll reach 60. You think I'll reach 70. No, you don't. You think so. You don't know. So life is short, man. Like, you gotta live it as best as you can. You have to do your best, and I mean that.
Let's just take a deep breath on that. Such important words. What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom. That's a interesting word. In Arabic, we call it hurriya. I I don't think I don't think there's such a there's freedom as the way we put it today, in the 21st century, in our hedonistic secular world, that there's freedom. I think freedom, there's a story that defines what we hold as freedom. And there was a Bedouin. I don't know if you know what a Bedouin is. Is like a nomad, a desert dweller, an Arab. right? They're called Bedouins. And it was after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, died, and he was sent as an emissary to the king of Persia, right? And the king of Persia, Kisra, at that time, was very pompous, of course, huge empire, civilized, right? So, he was looking down at the Arabs. So the Arabs were pushing forward in their conquest and their spread of Islam. And as he was walking through the great palaces of Kisra, he had a spear in his hand and he was poking the pillows and the carpets as he was walking. He was a very simple man. It was, Bedouins, if you know them, I've taught Bedouins for many years in the deserts of Abu Dhabi, and I learned so much from them. Very simple, very honorable people. And Kisra would have an entrance where you would have to lower yourself when you enter, so you could bow down. For those who don't want to bow down, they would still have to bow down. He was so pompous and so arrogant. So this Bedouin, when he saw that, obviously, he was quite smart. So he turned around and walked backwards inside, right? So he gave him his butt as opposed to his head, right? So he didn't want to bow down. So Kisra was very upset. So he basically said to him, you guys come here smelling like camel urine, from the desert, thinking you're going to intimidate me. He said, I'll give you some money, whatever money you want. Just go back to the desert and we pretend this never happened, right? And the man said, that's impossible. It's not going to happen. So he said, why? What do you want? He said, he basically defined what freedom means to us. He said, he's asked, why'd you come here? What do you want? You guys want freedom? You guys want, what do you want? He said, no, we came here to liberate you from the constrictness or the worship of the worldly things to the worship of the Creator, and from the constrictness of this world to the vastness of the hereafter, and from the worship of human beings and man-made things to the worship of the Creator. And that's what freedom is true freedom is in being to obtain self-control, okay, to obtain control over what we call the nafs, or the soul, that entices you towards different things, to be able to master your energy and your soul, your desires, okay, your shahawat in Islam, as we say. That is true freedom, is to enslave yourself to the one who created you by worshiping in prayer. It's not like your hands are going to be tied. You're going to go and live your life. But you will not be enslaved to yourself. Okay, you're not going to be enslaved to your desires, to your feelings, and all that is the ultimate stoicism that a person can achieve in terms of his body, his soul, his mind, his heart, his feelings, everything. That's what we define to, and to submit themselves to the rules of God and to the worship of the Creator. That's what in the end of the day, what people call ultimate freedom, or I do what I want to. It's not. Come on. You don't do what you want. There's always going to be something that you have to follow. Always. Even if it's just your own soul, people are always going to be enslaved to something, to some desire, some vice, some whatever it is.
And does this applies to women as much as men?
Yes, of course, women and men, both of them, in terms of their spirituality, are equally, in front of God. Their physical, their rules, certain regulations, of course, they are different. They're created differently. They have different limitations and different skills, different abilities. So different things apply to both. But in terms of spirituality in front of God, in terms of, their enslavement to God, away from their desires, that's something that, they both have in front of God. But in terms of their worldly life, men and women are very, very different, extremely different. Men are stronger than women. Women are weaker. This is the normality, you know what I mean? There's always going to be exceptions, of course, but this is the way it is. Men are more rational, women are more emotional. It's different rules, different things apply. So indeed, it is, in this life, there's different applications and different understandings of what a man has to do and what a woman has to do, even in their servitude towards God. So as we talked about, men are leaders, women are not. God doesn't expect women to lead, even though so many of them want to, right?
Why
And
do
they
they
don't
want
do a
to?
good job at it. Well, I think that they've been fooled by society and the world to believe that they are somehow losing out, that they should be like men, that they should compete with men to be men. I mean, that's where it kind of started with feminism, where women, it was first like we want to be recognized by men, then it was like we want to be equal to men, then they wanted to be better than men, or that they think that they are better, and now they want to be men. They actually turned into men. So they lost that beautiful uniqueness that God has given him, that femininity, that beautiful energy that God has created. There is something amazing about a woman. I mean, women are just amazing. And I believe that they lost that. And it's a big turnoff when you see a masculine woman who's trying to be like a man, trying to compete with men. Well, they cannot. In the end, they cannot. No matter what you do, in the end, a trained BJJ man or MMA man and a trained woman, the man is, most likely always going to win,
Yeah, I
without a
mean
doubt. If they're both trained,
that's a
it's,
fact. Yeah.
there's no discussion. It's a fact. But why? It's because God created them differently. They're not supposed to be there. But the thing is that the trained man in MMA, he's going to only enhance his masculinity by training. He's going to only be stronger and more useful. While a woman, to be able to train and to do all those things, to reach that level, she's going to have to leave her family, not have children, not know how to cook or clean. She's going to build muscle in the wrong places. She's going to start walking like a man, even talking like a man, even maybe feeling like a man, right? So this is what's going on. It's a crisis. So men don't have to compromise their masculinity to be in that level. It only enhances and beautifies their image and who they are. But for women, with all due respect, it only makes them uglier. I'm not saying that women should not know how to defend themselves. That was a question that was asked yesterday. And I taught my girls how to defend themselves, but they don't train 3 times a week and they build muscle and they start walking around saying dude and man and yo and, being, whatever, tough and rough and all that, right? They have to maintain their femininity. And women and that's where the gender roles come in place, because God has placed certain responsibilities on women that if they do those things, it only beautifies them and emphasizes their femininity and makes them more attractive to the masculine. And that is, their nurturing, which is so beautiful, right? So, I mean, if you think about it, women have been given this responsibility of nurturing human souls. Every man and woman have come, from a woman. You know what I mean? With being given birth. Like, what a great what a great, beautiful honor that women have been. The greatest leader, the greatest man, every prophet, right, came from between the legs of a woman. Let's, for lack of better words. You know what I mean? What
Hmm.
an honor. So why now be a man? Why do you want to act like a man? Why do you want to take on this? You're not equal. We're not equal. That's the reality. We're not the same. We are not equal. We shouldn't be. Why would you want to be equal? So people get upset. Oh, Brother Gabriel thinks that men and women are not equal. We are not equal, for sure. 100% we're not. Okay? In the sight of God, the soul is the same. Okay? In the sight of God, as I said, the spirituality is the same. But in this life, in this world, in terms of responsibilities, in terms of Sharia, the law, there is what's expected from men and women, the strength, who has the strength, we are not the same. Just like us men, we cannot, we can't give birth, we can't carry children, let's imagine and that's, I mean, that's what's happening with trans men, right? They're trying to be pregnant now. I mean, I saw a scientist in China now where they're trying to implant this like artificial womb in biological males so that they can
No,
show that
yeah.
yes, males indeed can be pregnant. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous, right? What have we done now? right? No, it's a beautiful thing that only women can do. So we men cannot do that. We don't have that ability. Therefore, we are not at that level in
Yeah,
that sense, in that
I
case.
I could hear the women right now just saying, but I'm not just this softness and this nurturing, I'm also this fiery, wild woman inside. And, what about those parts of me? And am I suppressing these?
Well, you can keep those for for the bedroom, those fiery sparks. Okay, don't express it outside of there, right? A woman can be, if she wants to, we're happy with that. Keep it inside the house and in the, But when a woman has this fiery, where is it coming from? Like what fiery? A woman. That's why her shyness is the greatest value. No man is going to entertain this fiery woman who's always fiery and wants to express herself. In the end, some men might want to have fun for a little bit. Okay, they might enjoy it, but long term, I don't think any man is interested in that, to be honest. Just like we're not so interested in their degrees or their, we're interested in their chastity, in their innocence or their femininity, whether they can be good wives, good mothers, that we can trust them in their loyalty. That's what we're interested in general. Their beauty, right? This is something that makes their faith, things that their innocence. These are things that purity. Their purity is something that we've always been interested in, right? For thousands of years, always been the same. Because the value of a woman is in her being a woman. The value of a woman pretty much lies in just her nature. From the day she's born, as she's raised, she's always going to get compliments. People are going to love her. They're going to cuddle her. She's going to say she's a pretty girl. She's going to get cute nicknames and stuff. We boys don't get that. No, people come like, you're such a beautiful boy once in a while. But girls are always being showered with all compliments because that's where it is. So they have to maintain that. For men, your value is not in just being a male. Your value is in what you do, what you create, what you build, how strong you are, how you train, what you offer as protection, as. But the woman just has to be a woman. She just has to maintain her being a woman. That's it. They just wired to be able to function, anywhere. But for a man, like for example, a woman can function anywhere. In any environment, she's okay. She can stay at home for 6 hours, do nothing, and she'll be okay. We men, if we stay at home for 6 hours and do nothing, we'll go crazy. We lose our masculinity. We lose our manhood. Men have never stayed at home. Like, during COVID, our clients were going insane because men were at home for so long and they just lost their minds. While women, they're okay because they're used, like that's something they can do. That's why you see, even with the way our school system is designed, girls always do better earlier in school because they can sit on a chair for a few hours without. Guys are not. They're gonna poke each other. We're gonna pull each other's chairs. We're gonna have to do some pranks. We're gonna have to fight. We're gonna have to do something. We can't stand in one place. And that's why I used to always change my lessons. I would do 10, 15 minutes of instructional times, then block the doors, get a soccer ball out, and start putting all the chairs aside and start fighting and pushing, and the kids were just going crazy, and they learned very well and other people would do 40, 50 minutes of instruction times and no one learned anything. So, boys are different. We're just different.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you just need to observe children to see that. My daughter was, I just have a memory that just popped up of her going on the monkey bars, sort of unsure, and then this little boy jumps on the monkey bars and tosses her aside and goes, and I'm like, oh, like, can you clearly see if you have the awareness to witness children
No
of what
doubt,
you're
no doubt.
saying. Oh, such good stuff. What is what does success look like to you as a man?
Well, I think for a man, he has to be successful on multiple levels, right? Because the responsibility on us is so much greater. So a man has to be successful at being a man first and foremost. So being strong, being a protector, and that's why we talked about the warrior mindset. Like you have to. I don't think it's not about violence, guys. People think that we're violent. We like to fight. It's just about spilling blood. No, it's about, okay, violence is the ability to fight, the ability to defend, the ability to break someone if you have to. But that's the key point. If you have to, and being able to control it, right? So a man has to be successful at that. Okay, a man has to also be successful at controlling his emotions, right? A woman can get away with crying and screaming, and she'll get a thousand shoulders to cry on. A man is not. People are gonna look at him like, "What's wrong with you, man?" Right? So he has to be very successful at controlling his emotions. A man has to be very successful at making decisions. A man has to be successful at making money. It's very important, right? You have so many people today saying it's not important, it's not important. It is important. You have to be successful because, again, there's a responsibility on you. A man has to be definitely successful in, again, upholding his honor and his ethics, his faith. A man has to be successful in so many different things. And to get to that success, a man is going to have to fail over and over. And I think this is something that people don't understand. Women don't really have to fail so much in their life. If they stick to what they've been created for, and if they, you're raised as a girl, you are taking care of your father, then you get married, husband takes you over, he takes care of you. You just have to be a supportive woman who, gives emotions and intimacy and love and care and nurturing. It's not that difficult to fail, but boys, we have to fail. We have to fail. We have to hurt. We have to bruise. We have to get scars. We have to experience those pains to be able to be successful. And for one success, you're probably going to have to experience sometimes 20 to 50 failures in your life. And those hurt, right? But that's what makes you as a man. So success is plethora of things, but without a doubt, one of them is is to be successful as a man, as who you are. Are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with who you are? Because only you know yourself. We can sit here and do a podcast and talk nice and talk about all these fancy things, but in the end, when the lights go off, we know who we are alone. We know who we are as men. We know our weaknesses. We can't be hypocrites. There's a lot of self-righteousness in our communities, even the Muslim community, man. We're full of it. You know what I mean? But in the end, we know who we are. We know our weaknesses, and that's success for a man, to be able to realize what's my weakness, what's my strength. Who am I really in reality? And that's why God says in the Quran, so don't purify yourselves. فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't make yourself appear good, because God knows exactly what's in your souls. So I think that's success, to really know how to assess yourself and to be real with yourself, and then to be able to build on that. Because once you are real with yourself and especially what your weakness is, right? As the art of war says, right? You need to know your weakness and your strength, as well as your enemy's weakness and strength. That's when you're a real warrior. Not only when you know your strength or your enemy's strength. No, you need to know weaknesses and strengths. Then you can build on that. Then you can work with that.
This Islam and this warrior kind of energy that we have. Do you see them working in parallel? How do you
100%.
see?
Right. I mean, I know there's a negative connotation to the term, but in Islam, there's an actual concept which is called jihad, right? So, of course, after 9/11, it's been labeled as something so negative, and, Osama bin Laden, Twin Towers, 9/11, terrorism, right? But the concept of jihad is basically a warrior mindset that's built from the beginning, right? That's from the beginning, from a child, that you'll teach him, that there's an internal war and then there's an external war. And that the greater jihad is that internal war over your soul, over your nafs, what we call the nafs, okay? And then there's an external war as well, which is, yeah, there is conflict in the world. There is armed conflict sometimes. There's physical conflict. It's always been there for thousands of years, centuries and millennia. There's always been war. The problem is that it's, again, how people report stuff. So no one has a problem with The Art of War, which is a book that every CEO in this world has read, and it's highly regarded as, the greatest book of battle and strategy in the world, man. But it's quite bloody if you think about it, and quite strong. But of course, people have them problems with, if someone says jihad, and it's been really, given a bad name, and people are scared to even Muslims, like even Muslims will not talk about it. And I think that's a weakness, because when we don't teach our boys that you can be what's called a mujahid, which is the warrior, like almost like a samurai, literally, like that's why I love samurai, that whole, because it's so close. Remove all the, the spirituality that the Japanese would have, but that concept of honor, of fighting, of this, of learning how to fight, armed learning, like fighting and close combat and all that, this is exactly what it is, right? So that was my fascination with samurai, culture from the beginning, because such a close parallel, between the mujahid and the samurai. So the mujahid is basically the warrior, and every single person in Islam, in the history of Islam, was basically a mujahid, was a warrior. And it was something that was treasured and cherished, right? But now what's being cherished and treasured is to be a weak person. And, and sadly, subhanAllah, when you look at it, it's those weak people, the ones that are causing the problems. Those who don't know how to control themselves, those who don't know how to deal with their emotions, those who don't know how to fight. Who are the ones who stab? So we have like a project in East London and Slough and in the UK, and dealing with gangs and gang related activities. And a lot of the boys there, there's like, I think last year London was averaging 2 stabbings a day, right? And you're talking about leading to death, And when we look at it, we talk about their families, and we look at who these boys are. These are boys who don't know how to fight. These are boys who are scared. These are boys who are cowards. Right? So they take a knife and then they go and stab someone to death because they think that's how it is. So we try to get these boys into the gym. We have Blackbeard Academy, the MMA Academy. We have Ummah Combat. We try to take these boys off the street into the gym to teach them how to fight, so that they can not to go and be more violent, but that they can know how to manage conflict better, as opposed to take a gun or a knife and stab someone. Man, boys are going to have issues. We're going to have issues always, but we can sort it out. We can punch each other and then shake hands and walk it off. You know what I mean? But not to go into school and shoot and stab and this and kill innocent people and that. Who said that? Like, who's preaching that? I don't know where these people come up with this stuff from, So it's clear. So we shouldn't be shy to preach this concept, because it only makes stronger men who are more responsible. They have ethics and morality and honor. And this is only going to make a better world, without a doubt.
Wow, and I can attest to this. I mean, when we're talking, you mentioned violence, it's not about violence. And in my early 20s, I was a strength coach for MMA athletes and jiu-jitsu guys at the ADCC level, heavyweight, just anyways, what I noticed from these people is that when they know how to fight, they tend to be all very humble.
Very humble, very calm.
Very calm. Like, they know their power. They don't need to show it to anyone. And actually, this story is coming to me. I was a trainer. I was with this guy, Kareem Byron, super heavyweight, competed at ADCC. And we're working out in the gym, and I'm his coach. And there's a bodybuilder right next to him, huge muscles, big guy, competitive guy, but doesn't know how to fight, right? And then Kareem is there. Kareem's kind of fat. He's a fat guy, and at that weight, I think he's 350 pounds or something, So he's going and he's doing this seated row at the gym, and he's getting close to the bodybuilder dude, And as he's like rocking back, and I can see the bodybuilder guy just like getting upset, getting like, getting heated up. And I'm thinking, he has no idea who this guy is, that he could turn him into a pretzel in like 30 seconds,
Right.
And I could just see, and Kareem just looked at him, and then he just kept doing his rows. You know, like it didn't even phase him.
Right. That's it. That's it.
Uh,
Self-control. That you don't have to
so
prove anything. You don't have to prove
yeah.
anything because you've already proven yourself in the gym, within a contained environment, with your buddies, with your brothers. You know what you're worth. You don't have to show off to anyone or prove anyone to anyone. Therefore, there's no threat.
Who was a childhood hero of yours in terms of warrior? Did you have any sort of images around that?
Um, okay, so there was I don't know if you ever watched Lupin.
Nope.
So Lupin was a cartoon, but then they made like I guess a movie about it either. But there was a samurai by the name of Jigen. You can look at it. Lupin was like a thief basically. He was a thief. He was a famous thief. And but yeah, there was a samurai in that cartoon, and his name was Jigen. He would cut with his sword for like anything. But he's always very like composed, very quiet, very. So that was like my
Did he
guy,
have like a
Jigen.
uniform
His name
or
was Jigen.
did he have a
Yeah, he would
uniform?
have a kimono on. Yeah, yeah, he was always in there. Yeah, he was always with his sword. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can look it up. It's pretty cool.
I will
So
look
yeah,
it
that
up.
was like my guy. But I used to love Bruce Lee. I used to love Bruce Lee a lot. That was. I used to love it. I used to love Bruce Lee a lot. Yeah, those were like my main heroes.
Amazing. What does it take to be a successful CEO these days? Before I go there, I had this. I have a lot of experience in business. That's why it's the Freedompreneur Show. Though now the word freedom is have to ponder what you said about it. Um, but no, I did like it. I did like what you say, and I do agree. Um, oh God, now I lost my train of thought. Um,
You said what is it? A CEO, successful CEO.
Oh yeah, successful CEO, right? I went in my journey going from using my bodybuilding principles of vision, focus, discipline, perseverance. This is how we reach whatever we want in life. And then in my journey, I sort of let all that go. And then I just said, let's see what happens if I just let everything I've known go. And I started a company, and funny enough, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because then my company, I was starting to kind of lead by consensus. And it took me a long time to start to go, I can't seem to move forward. Like I have to get everyone on board, get everyone to agree to make decisions. I felt like walking through sludge, through molasses or something at the speed. So to you, so now I've returned. I've returned to the perspective of vision, self-discipline, perseverance, focus being sort of the qualities. What is your view on a successful leader of like a CEO of a company in terms of their values?
Right. I think a lot of people think that being a leader, you have to be very harsh and very strong and very opinionated and so on. It's part of it, but I think there's a balance between being strong and being, I don't want to use the word soft, but being accommodating. So it's a balance. You need to know, let's use the term again from Islam, hikmah. You have to have hikmah. And hikmah is defined as, I guess the best translation would be wisdom. So you have to be wise. And
Mm.
a wise person doesn't have to be weak or strong. A wise person actually is very strong, extremely strong, but knows when to apply the pressure, right? So it's like the scholars of Islam have I guess defined hikmah or wisdom as putting the right thing in the right place at the right time. Okay, this is the
Beautiful.
Arabic definition of hikmah, putting the right thing in the right place at the right time. So you with some people you might have to be very strong because that's how they learn and that's how they get it. And yet in another case, maybe that person might be going through something different in their life, and you have to be able to read that as a CEO so that maybe in that case you'll apply a softer approach in that situation, that time. Yet another employee might be different. Another team might be differently approached, depending. So usually, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was very good at assessing people, and he would kind of customize his talk and his approach to them, depending on who this person was, right? Sometimes he was harsh, sometimes he was very nice and soft, depending on the situation and the time. And I think that's what made him an amazing, leader, and was able to, I mean, I'm Muslim because of that. It started from one man. It was, if you look at his life, it was an amazing leader, an amazing father, an amazing husband. But he would still be able to, a little girl would be able to grab him by the hand and walk around with him through the city. So, it's that balance, that wisdom that I believe makes a great leader, a strong CEO, to know when to be strong, when to put that pressure. Sometimes you gotta have to, break some stuff. And sometimes you just gonna have to be like, okay, here we go. Let's do it. So
Wow.
it's just about knowing when to do that.
There's an indigenous story of he said that says within us there's three animals. There's the lion, there's the ox, and there's the eagle that can oversee the two, when to use the lion and when to be the ox. And I thought that, like, to me, in your context of that, I feel like, wow, it hit me as soon as you said wisdom. I was like, ooh, yeah, that is the thing. Where do you see the difference between, because this control of emotions that you keep saying, and what about the instinctual protector, where he acts on instinct of anger and decides, let's say somebody threatens your child or something, and then there's not even the cognitive time that looks at it, that just paf reacts. How do you define the emotional state and the instincts and how they relate together?
Right. I think instincts, again, there's something that God created into us. A human being is not expected to be perfect. He has to have a balance between instincts and emotions, his control and his reactions. No doubt, every human being is created with reactions. I think what we are responsible for is to try and to work at having, that even if it's a fraction of a second of a delay in understanding what we're doing, right? That's important. And that comes with that self-development and mastery of the soul. A person who is only reactive is definitely going to react sometimes in the right situation, such as defending your child, but might react also in the wrong situation when there's no need, there's no sense of urgency. So as a Muslim, you always have to work towards perfecting that delay, even if it's by a fraction of a second or a second, in terms of how, for example, if you want to, defend your child, right? Instinctually, you will do that right away, and there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, that's what's expected to do, right? If someone comes towards you and you have your child with you or your wife, you're definitely going to react, right? Because there's a imminent threat right there. But how are you going to hit them? Are you going to hit them to kill them, or are you going to hit them to, to stop them? Right? That's where the difference is. And sadly, many people, they just don't have any control over themselves, and they do more than they were supposed to. You can react, but there's even in that reaction, there's control. There has to be, even if, let's say, the first strike or whatever, but then you start getting a hold of yourself and knowing, okay, I think I need to stop now.
I feel, having went through this spiritual journey for 8 years of this let go, I run into a lot of men, and a lot of them probably listening right now, that have been in this spiritual world. I owned a meditation studio, the first one in the world, actually, first franchise in the world. And what I started to notice after a while is that there's this disembodiment of these instincts, like this disconnection of, like, oh, I will just be passive to everything, and then that anger becomes bad, and everyone looks bad upon anger and rage, and like, no, these are things you do never let out, and you have to always be calm. And then I started to say, like, this doesn't feel right, if I need to What are your thoughts? What's coming up for you around that?
Right. So we see, for example, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in general, by default, like de facto default is that you're contained. But then you would have sometimes that he would get so angry that they say that his face would lit up, it would be red, you know. Um, so and he would have a sword in his hand, that he would lift up. So he would be very angry. So no, you cannot bury your feelings and your emotions inside. You just have to learn when to control and how to control them. But for sure, you don't make it like, okay, this is something bad to be angry. No, in some situations it's only anger that's gonna deal with that situation. And yeah, this whole pacifistic approach to everything, this doesn't work. This causes more problems because no one's gonna be able to last. Imagine that you're being, attacked or something happens and you're gonna just be this pacifistic person with just controlling their emotions. And no, you're gonna smash the guy in pieces and then, you're gonna think about it later. You're gonna apologize later. The reality is that no, you have to anger is there. It's part of your fitra again, to bring that word again. It's your natural disposition that God created you with, right? Just that the same way you're able to love. Like, one of like the mujahideen, like, or the warriors would be able to fight a war in the morning and then literally, like, smash people, and then they would go and hug their wives at night and embrace their babies, like little babies, and they'll kiss them and play with them and goo goo gaga, right? And that's how it is, that's how it is.
Oh, wow. Okay, I want to respect your time. We've reached an hour now, and I just have a
Appreciate
few
it.
closing questions. I want you to talk just a little bit about your course. If any of this has resonated with you, he has a course online. Please give us a summary of this.
Right, so the Muslim Alpha Man course, it was basically designed out of a personal development, journey that I've taken myself as a young man, growing up, from like 14 without a father and just, learning how to be a man through different experiences. So converting to Islam at the age of 20, and then learning about the faith and developing myself. It was basically my attempt to connect and to become a man and connect to the faith. So I've developed this course to help young boys to maybe not make the same mistakes that I've done and have maybe like a blueprint or a directive as to how to go about in life. It touches upon the warrior mindset. It talks about business. It talks about spirituality. It talks about intimacy. It talks about relationships, how to deal with your wife. It talks about male psychology and female psychology, but specifically focuses on mindset and how to change the mindset, how to stop being have a weak mind, just a defeated personality, and just kind of like, yeah, whatever, passive and so on. No, we have to develop ourselves. The world is going to be a better world when there's going to be strong men, regaining access and leadership to the world. Right now, we're being led by weakness, and that's why there's so much confusion. So the Muslim Alpha Man course is an attempt to, get men to become men again, not males. You're born as a male, but you become a man.
Amazing. So I have just two questions for you before you go. Quick firing questions. What is a book that impacted your life the most?
The Quran was the book that really changed my life. I read it before I was Muslim, and I remember it was like a struggle to read it because it's not like I was used to the Bible. I was used to, like, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word became God, and the Word became flesh, you know. Like everything started, and then there's a culmination point, there's an ending. I was used to, books that have a beginning and an end. The Quran is not a book to be read, it's to be studied, to be lived by. So it was like a back and forth. I was almost arguing with the Quran, reading it as a non-Muslim. And I remember every night I would look forward to finishing my studies and everything, going back to just read another page. And it was almost like it was reading me. So the Quran was probably the one that had the most impact in my life on me. Um, and another book I would say that had an impact on me that I read when I was much younger. This is not a religious book, but it was Catcher in the Rye. A lot of people might think that I'm a criminal now or something like that, but it was very eye-opening, and I think it was grade 9 when I read it first, and it was a very interesting book that just kind of opened my eyes to the world in a different way, and I guess a third book would be the Road to Mecca by Leopold Thies or Muhammad Assad, the Austrian Jew who converted to Islam very early, talking about early 1900s. So that was just a beautiful book that really helped me a lot in understanding just the journey of a man like myself who comes from I guess a non-Arab, non-Muslim background, a European, and he really took a trip all the way from Austria into Hungary, Romania, crossed into Turkey, and then went to Palestine, ended up in Afghanistan, somewhere on the way through the mountains of Afghanistan, embraces Islam, and Pakistan. It's just a real traveler, very beautifully, very well written. The English translation is just amazing.
Wow. Okay, last question. If you could send a message to every telephone, every laptop, every screen around the world, around the globe, to all of humanity, what would that message be for them?
If I could send a message, I would send the message of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There's no God except God, and Muhammad is his prophet. This is what I live by. This is what I will die by. This is what saved me. This is what I think if a lot of people just look into it, just give it a chance, just read the Quran. I think, for me and for many others who have struggled throughout our lives, especially early ages, I think Islam is like the solution to mankind's problems. I do believe so. There's no bias for me because I didn't come from that background, came from a very different background. But this is if I have only one message to send, that would be it.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. I just
Thank you.
so much respect for what you're expressing. You're fearless, you're bold, you're putting it all out there, and it's just resonating so strong. So just know that, and I know it's going to keep going even more. So thank you so much for being on this show.
Appreciate you
Where
having
could
me.
people find you?
I think if they Google my name, just Gabriel Al-Romani, they'll find all my work and my counseling, my courses, my posts, everything is there.
Go check out his YouTube videos, guys. It's just filled with wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.